like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Etheridge to please lead us in our prayer and pledge.
Please bow here. Heavenly Father, thank you for this great day, and thank you for all the opportunities that you give to us. And we thank you for this time of year and the reason for our season, and that's the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And we ask that you guide us through tonight, the decisions we make in this betterment our students and our personnel. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight, and at this time, I would like to, I'll entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. And at this time, if there is anyone who would like to address the board or have any comments, we'd love to hear from you. Our guests? No? What's your name?
Nicholas Vassar.
Miss Nicholas. And who are you with, Nicholas?
I teach social studies at Bronzeville High School.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, so thank you. Welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Glad you're part of our meeting tonight. At this time, we were to go to Mr. Stockman. And Mr. Eastman. Good evening.
So in front of you is a contract for Duke Solutions, which is a maintenance work order system. Breezy, Mac, and myself researched a few other work order systems. I found this to best suit our needs for the county, for the district at this time, and for to grow into the future. We've also researched Incident IQ, Max Panda, and Fix software. The price for Duke Solution was one of the better pricing for everything it included. Everybody done? Not that one. That was the contract.
Should be up to this point. All right, we,
It says Duke Solutions.
All caught up? Okay. Close. Okay. The price for Duke Solution is one of the better pricing that we looked at, and it's given us the first 3 months free, and charging us $2,960.61 for the other 3 months of this fiscal year. The annually renew the contract would be for $8,882. The contract in front of you would start January 1st. We had the opportunity to go to Suwannee County to see how Duke Solution worked firsthand. In a moment, I'll talk about some of the reports I provided you that came from Suwannee County. Mr. Carver, the maintenance director in Suwannee County, was more than helpful when we showed up and walked us through everything that he showed us on the system and answer any questions we had at that moment and in the future.
I just want to explain a little about what we're talking about. It's a maintenance work order system and also tracking, and we will provide documents, reports, see expenses on buildings, on pieces of equipment, what we've done, in the past on it. See, is it time maybe to say we spent enough on this? Let's move on. We can readily pull reports, but on the beginning end of it, it's going to help us work with the schools. It's user-friendly on the input end, where we can have where the teachers can actually input into the system work order requests. And we can have different levels of required fields so we can know a little better what their issue is, instead of trips back and forth and phone calls back and forth. I liken to any software, we're not gonna be able to get a total use of it, for the first 6 months. We have to learn it, we have to input a lot of stuff, so it's gonna be a work in progress. I think it's something we could use. Brandon's got some slides here to,
Before we dive that, I was wanting to go back in and explain a little bit of what they're using right now, which is Google Sheets. I wanted to go over a little bit, kind of what he talked about, to explain how it's going to help us. So one of the problems we have with Google Sheets and Dude Solutions Config is, you'll notice in this, we have a lot of problems with teachers. So if somebody wants to put on a request right now, say a teacher wants to put on a request, they would go to somebody in the front office. This one's Williston Middle High School, so I believe it's Scarlett that they would go to put the request on. So our problem is if they go through that process, and what Dude Solutions would help us with is that teacher would go to Scarlett, they put it on. If there's an issue or something they're having that they need more answers, what's going on with this, they would have to contact Scarlett back. Well, if Scarlett didn't have all those answers, they weren't contacting the teacher back. So in essence, what he kind of already hit on a little bit is we would be able to just communicate technician, teacher, or whoever put it on the request.
as Brandon mentioned, we went to Swanee County, met with Mr. Mark Carver. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with him, but he's the maintenance director. He's been there for almost 30 years. He's been maintenance director for 25 years or so. They've been using this product for 8 to 10 years. I don't have that number exact to tell you, so. But we talked to several members of his staff, and they all really like it, except for a few holdouts that don't want to use mobile phones to input stuff. But other than that, seem to be real responsive with it. I think it's, going to be a tool for us, just like hammer or saw or anything else that will do a job. Got a little more information here too. Just more
I know
slides.
you were going to mention too, was, it's not showing the full slide, but over to the side, was how long it takes to complete a work order.
Yeah, we had approximately 1,500 work orders since the beginning of the fiscal year coming through the maintenance department. They range anywhere on this slide from 1 hour to do it to 56 man-hours, depending on what the project is. And we'll be able to bring reports and show you all what we're doing a little better, and the public can understand, what we do. I believe it's going to make us more efficient. And like I said, I believe the front-end user doing the input, doing the request will find it easier also. Yeah, if you want to look at some of the side shows, we'll tell you a little bit about it, what we've been learned already. And they're, see, they have again, they're not just in schools, they're in government and private businesses. And they're all over the United States, and they're constantly upgrading. Brandon said we won't implement it full scope till July. They're going to give us some training, and mostly through technology. And then in July, we'll be able to have questions of them to be able to help us use the system, instead of just look like trying to learn a different language right when you start. We'll be able to get to know it a little bit. That's we probably won't ease into it.
This is some of the stuff that's included with it, when we talked about it, was the unlimited users. Right now, the Google Sheet, there's only a few people that have access to it, that has to put the work orders on. We'd open that up to everybody that has the ability to do it. I think the mobile app would be huge for his guys to be able to receive these as they're out and about and not coming at the end of the day collecting them. They're able to get these as they're going, so if a work order comes in, they realize it's not gonna take some time and they're already out and about, so they can knock it out, saving time and being more efficient. This is more the implementation process. I'm seeing on the left side, January 1st when the contract would start. And the launch, full launch would be, I'm thinking July 1st of the next fiscal year to have a good understanding of how everything needs to work and be able to implement it the way we need to be. You want to go in a little bit about the preventive maintenance?
Yes, that, in our air conditioning, something that we can relate to really easily on preventive maintenance, we can track easily and click a few buttons, pull up when the filters was changed. Even, you know, capacitors, if machines eat capacitors, and you got to rely on your memory of how many you put in it now, we'll be able to pull that out. Stuff like that, I think will help us a lot.
And I know Max mentioned too about AC filters. We're able to auto-generate work orders, so we wouldn't have to think about when we need to change something. We can have these automatically generated every 3 months or however we see fit to have all this stuff done, whether it's oil changes, greasing the skid steer, whatever it may be. We can set this up for work orders to come in. There's just a few things that are included inside this that we can.
Like I said, there's going to be a lot more that we're going to be able to use to start with. So,
Who's gonna run the program?
we will have different people. I will be, Matt Huber will be, Brandon will have access, and our my confidential secretary, Lori Conquest. So we have 4 users on our end to start with. Now, that's to distribute. All of our techs will be able to use as far as seeing what they need to do and tackling the jobs and putting their input in.
And there's going to be a lot of input in the next 6 months to be able to get this started to go. One of the things that we can use down the road, and I'd say, I think it's a really cool thing, is probably one of the things I'd be most excited about, is a QR code system. We talk about how you can pull up a work order. If we print these out and stick them, I'm going to say on a skid steer, you could be able to take that phone and scan it and tell anything that's been done with that skid steer as long as it's been input. Same thing with the AC unit. Max out there working on the AC unit, and he feels like he's done a lot of work on his AC unit. He can scan that code, pull it right up, and be able to tell how much money to put into that unit. So based upon, do they need to get a new unit, or keep putting money back into the unit? And I think you can go as far as you want to go with that QR code.
And you know, if you're working on it and it's been a booger, it seems like you've done 50 things to it in your mind. Maybe it hadn't been but 3 things that were just real hard. We're getting it out of our mind and into something we can see.
So, Breezy.
Yes, sir.
Brandon, I'm sure, I guess maybe this is more Breezy. The work order's generated, okay, we'll just say it's the AC unit right outside the building here, okay. It's assigned to Mac. Mac goes and takes a look at it. Mac diagnoses, does whatever he does to it. Does he input what he did, or does that go back to Lori, or
No, the technician,
whatever technician is
Will
going to
input.
input that?
and that's another nice thing about it. The person doing the request can see what was done, when it was done, if it's a work in progress, if somebody's been there, somebody hasn't been there, you know, because a lot of times we go to a classroom and there's no communication. Teacher's out, aide's out, whoever, and maybe we had a problem again tomorrow. Well, to them, nobody's ever been there. In reality, they have just,
So what's our process now? Does
Process?
Mac physically write that up?
we have that, when that maintenance request goes in, we'll work, writes up a work order, paperwork order. It's placed in our boxes for the different technicians. And in the mornings, find out if it's a sure enough hot button, you know, I got it on my desk and hand it out. If it's standard stuff, you go in and get them, return them back in. When they completed, or has to pull it back out, enter it back in, and that might be a week before all that happens. You know, whether the problem's been fixed today or tomorrow.
That was my constant reality, you know, if you guys know this yet, not going through the training, but is there a way to prioritize?
Yes.
Maybe you have a toilet overflowing and then a teacher that says the one with the rooms to be on.
Yes. There's different levels of priority, people inputting that can do it. There'll be more response, like he said. There's also a message center between whoever requests the work order and say the technician, whoever's working on it. So if they have a question, or Matt has a question to ask this person, they'd be able to submit a question back to them, and I'm sure they can get it through email or however that may be.
Now, I think you kind of said this, I want to just double check. To postpone the app, say you're working in Chiefland on something, you just finish up, and something gets reported, that while you're there, you can get an alert that, hey, don't leave yet, this has happened to you. To say, go and slam to Bronson, you just have to turn around and go back, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. And now what happens if they got a hot button, they will call, they'll submit a work order, they'll call and say, hey, we really got this, do you have anybody? And we'll get over there. Sometimes we have to be careful because sometimes your emergency, in a big, you know, what we have going other than that, just because a man's in Chiefland, if that's a 3-hour project and we got half a school down, we got to go over here. That person won't always understand that because it's their room, you know. We can't always take that, but at least the technician can, if he has that information, he's there, he can check it out. And
It would also seem like nothing would get lost.
that's,
That makes sense. Not saying anything gets lost right now, but it would seem that.
oh, it does.
Well, it would also be, like if I'm Mr. Basilero and my room's hot, for whatever reason, I can look and go, oh, I reported it, oh, he's been here, I can keep up with it.
That's right.
And they'll get notifications, I
And
think,
this is what's wrong, we're waiting on this part, or,
and they'll get notifications based upon, I think, after not responding to that or opening that request up.
And the teachers can input, they'll have access to,
Yes, ma'am, and we're gonna have to work with the schools to see how each school may wanna operate it a little different, where it flows through the principal or the principal designee on some of these requests to keep everything from a fray in the carpet to, you know, something serious.
What he's also saying is, they will still put it on, but we have the option to get somebody at the school to approve it before it gets sent to them. We can customize that any way we have to believe in.
And that's pretty much gonna be, I see it being on administrator schools and what they want, you know, how they want it to flow to us. And it's gonna be a work in progress.
I have one more question for Brandon. Does it have like inventory capabilities? So, as you know, that next week is air AC filter day, so we make sure so we don't have to, you know.
I see the QR coding and the inventory side working hand in hand a lot. And that's one of those things we'll work into, because that's gonna be a big, and there's another slide down later coming up talking about the asset side of it. And that's a lot of input put into the system, and all the stuff we have.
And that's where, you know, we've got reports from Mr. Carver, and he just boggled my brain when he went to pulling up reports. We gotta get that information in the system, and it's gonna take time. So that's why I'm saying, you know, a year from now, we should be able to have some pretty extensive reports, but it's not gonna happen overnight.
Chairman, I know you said the 4, so I'm sure the 4 people that are major inputters into the program, y'all probably talked about this, so y'all probably bought in. The rest of the employees, that are the one that's gonna be sitting on the ground beside the air conditioning unit, that you wanna plug in to make sure, I mean, y'all had conference, I work Cowboys, and I gave Cowboys one of these right here about 2 years ago. And then you have to fight it because they still wanna write on a piece of paper and take it to the secretary, put in. So, these programs are only as good as what you put into them. And if it doesn't create it, so I'm just saying, make sure we got buy-in before we just start a program.
And I think we, by and large, we do. We're gonna have the same problem Mr. Carver has. We're gonna have a couple that's gonna want to come, and they're gonna have to come to the office. It's gonna make their life easier to do it on their mobile device. They have to come to the office and sit down and do it at the end of the day. They've still got to keep up with it, so we're going, you know, but I think we're gonna have a couple, and I think they'll see that in time, it's gonna make their job easier.
One more
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
How does it work when you have like state mandates, fencing, window issues? Are you guys gonna have to manually put the work orders in? Is there a way to sync that with the state or?
Yeah, we'd have to, as far as I know, I mean, there may be ways, but as far as I know, it would be something we would have to enter to, you know,
And
to do that.
And all his guys would be able to make their own work order, so if something came up at school that wasn't necessarily a work order, but something they fixed real quick, they can account for their time, say what they were doing, and submit a work order based upon what they were doing.
Right now, you know, we have a lot of that. We get, somebody over changing lights, and they have some exhaust fan or this or that, and they turn in their work order for the one thing they had the work order on. They have 2 or 3 things that we're not tracking, and then you, well, obviously they're so long, you know, that kind of thing.
And
It's
if we have to
still,
work on that exhaust fan 4 times, we need to change that exhaust fan.
but it's still going to require them to input, like you said. But when something Mr. Carver actually said, he said it created a competition amongst his technicians when they have their meeting, and, well, you've had 8 hours of stuff this week that you've logged in, he's got 36. What's going on? Makes that person want to step up a little bit.
I'm gonna tell y'all later, but somewhere in the folder, there is some, reports that we were able to, Mr. Carver gave us from Swanee County, and you can pull them up, and you can see about the hours that he's talking about. There's one employee that he was showing us in there that had quite a few less hours worked than some other ones. So some of those competitions, but some of the other reports in there, you can pull from buildings to everything you choose.
John Garrison would pick it up.
And we don't want to, you know, drag this out and give you too many details that you don't need, but if you have questions, more questions, and if you want us to explain further, we will.
Madam Chairman, I move this recommendation, staff recommendation for Food Solutions contract for a 6-month period.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
So there's a 6-month trial period?
This contract, as I understand it, is terminable at any time.
So I think it's 2 months free, then there's a thing, then there's a year-long contract.
It's
They
not-
can't terminate it until the end of the year.
You know, you can reverse it, takes a clause.
I think it's within 60 days or 30 days before the renewal process.
So if we get like in April, and we find out it just ain't working, it's on
Yeah, we're not in it for years and years. Brandon was at a conference and met the dude, I guess.
One of the dudes that
And,
was school dude.
and that's one thing they're doing, they're constantly updating their programs too.
And if there's something that we found that we don't like or we need to change, we can contact them and they'll try to fit it with our needs.
Let me give you a little background knowledge. The reason we're having this conversation is always, it's about communications. And I happened to be at a school one day, and at the beginning of school, and they said, well, I said, what do you need to start school? I said, we got no radios, and the intercom system doesn't work. So I called up the school. It says, so-and-so was there today, and so I had that fixed. So I told the assistant principal, they walked over there and pressed the button, and it works. But she didn't have a clue, because she didn't know.
But other people knew.
Yeah, but
She didn't.
so there is a communication thing, and a lot of times we get work done and things happen, but nobody knows about it. And this is a way for everybody to communicate what's done. It'll help us out with efficiency and inventory and some tracking once that all gets done. Also, in trying to do this, I communicated and sent out a phone call to the DPAC district, says, well, y'all, anybody use a maintenance tracking system to do stuff? And they all came back with this vendor. Everybody from Flagler County to Dixie County. And so it's pretty consistent. Swanee is probably the most robust for using this. So,
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Etheridge and a second by Mr. Coward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go to item F and Mr. Vada.
Actually, can we go to, there's two bids, one's mine and Reese and one's mine and John's. If we can do the site work and paving for Wilson Elementary first.
Certainly, we can do that.
Now you better sit down.
You don't want me to get too much exercise.
So we went out to bid for site work and paving for the Wilson Elementary fueling station. This is the fueling station currently behind Joyce Bullock Elementary School. We advertised it and sent it out to B.E. Whitehurst and Sons Incorporated and Jimmy Gerald's Hauling and Grading LLC. Want to thank both of them for submitting us a bid and also meeting us at the pre-bid to give us more information we needed to. Based on the numbers we received back, I recommend Jimmy Gerald's Hauling and Grading LLC based on the price.
Can I clarify something? So it is currently, they're at behind the ag station.
Yes,
Yes, for the,
That the new station is going to be.
yes. Outside the secure perimeter at Wilson Elementary, meaning the buses do not have to open gates or any of the service vehicles to get in, get fuel, clean their buses. There'll be a bus wash station, which is a loose term, is a place they can, it's not fancy exactly, but it gives them a place to.
So I physically see what's behind the old high school. All right. So are we talking about something just comparable to that, or?
Comparable but more updated. We will have, there'll be two buildings, one building, and a revamp. The building will house the chemicals for the DEF fluid, oil, stuff like that they need on the site. And the other will be a revamp with the fuel tanks like it's there now. And those two things are not in this. This is the site work for a big loop that we've worked with Mr. Masters and Mr. Wayne and designing to allow double buses. One can fuel, one can come in and wash, not have we waiting on the other. Make a loop, come over close to the back where it turns to go to behind the cafeteria. It's going to be to the right over there. And so there's some pretty good grade work, and as all the listening people know,
Just that idea about how many linear feet or square feet, or, we're talking about paving?
paving, it's,
I mean, I'm not trying to micromanage, I'm just trying to get an idea.
find it here in our scope.
It's not in, it's not in our paper, it's talking about this. I have. Just generally, like for where the portable is, past the softball field, is it from there all the way around to the backside where it goes to make the bus loop?
No, sure, it will be, spot from 1,828 square yards of lime rock and 1,770 square yards, 2-inch thick asphalt pavement. And I can get you copies of this.
That's all.
It will start approximately where the entrance to the bus loop is, out in the field. It's got to go out a ways, enough to make the radiuses for two buses, and it will come back in with an area for a wash station and all the retention ponds. It will come back in at the corner where you turn to go to the cafeteria. That's,
Just substantial difference between the two bids.
I wish we had a diagram to put up, and I can get you one.
No, it's okay. I mean, I have a visual now, when you just said that, get an idea about this.
There's a big difference in the bids.
Now,
There's a big difference in the bids.
yes, there is, and I don't know why we reached out to both, and I do know that in the overall scheme of things, that's a small paving job and sidewalk job, we have to move a bunch of equipment. Mr. Gerald's is a smaller business, so I'm sure his overhead is a lot less. I don't, that's the only thing I can speculate, but I'm proud to have
I moved.
two bids.
I moved that we use Jimmy Gerald's Mowing and Grading LLC. for sidewalk and paving, refueling the WPS.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
One other question. Just in the grand scheme of things, if somebody came and decided they needed that other piece of property where the football field that Joyce Bullock was, and we need to move, will this area be any hindrance if we had to move pre-K two over there to that site?
Or you're asking something that's over my head. I mean, we designed it for the,
It's, knowing the property where you're fixing to build this is in the middle of a rock bed, major rock bed, so.
I would, in my mind, think if they were going to add to the school, they would put it closer to the school.
Well, that's all I'm asking.
Maybe
Make sure that
move
it's not
retention
gonna be-
ponds
That's why I'm
farther
asking.
away. I
Make
don't
sure-
know,
I can see the property, but I'm just making sure that we cross that bridge, that it won't be any piece of property that we would need to put buildings on. So
I wouldn't say in a foreseeable future, we'll be putting buildings on the other side of that track.
that's all I need. I'll make sure we check that box.
Other than it's for athletics that are out there, and things like that, like we have softball field and stuff like that.
And, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
thank y'all.
Thank you.
We got another bid. This is the Levy Deal bid, which is a grant we received for distance learning equipment. We only had one vendor that acquired and submitted a bid. I reached out to another company, but never heard back from them throughout the process. We had two scopes on this bid, Scope A and Scope B. Scope A came back to, within reason to grant what we were expecting. Scope B came back and didn't meet the specifications and requirements of what we were asking for. So we're asking the board to approve Scope A, and we negotiated Scope B based on statute 287.057, section 5. It says if less than 2 responsive bids, proposals, or replies for commodity or contractual services purchased or received, the department or other agency may negotiate on best of terms and conditions. We provided in the last thing we added to y'all's folder was a quote for Scope B. And that's what we negotiated. We're asking you to approve Scope B now too, with the updated negotiation.
Okay. So what all goes for Scope A? What is that all?
Scope A.
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to have 2 units in what will be Central Florida. Now, that's going to be your Scope B. That's the part that was in contention. For our purposes, Scope A are just our schools. So we'd have 2 of these units at Chiefland Middle High School. We would have 2 of these units at Bronson Middle High School. We have 2 of these at Williston Middle High School. We would have 1 at Cedar Key and 1 at Yankeetown, and 1 of these units here at the district office. So the reason for that is so that we can do professional development that may be centered here, but we can still reach those teachers that are in Yankeetown and Cedar Key and the other schools for that matter, without them actually having to physically come here for professional development. And so that's why 1 of the units would be stationed here at the county office. Obviously, the grants, we wrote it and we were awarded $246,495, and their proposal A came under that threshold at $243,690. So it met our requirements for our equipment, for our schools. There were only 4 grants that were awarded in the entire state. We were one of those 4. One of them was done by the PACE Consortium, which is the Panhandle equivalent to NEFACS. And they wrote one. There was a Hand Care, was a grant for medical and primary care, sharing doctors basically through telecommunications equipment in the Panhandle. And then there was another grant that was written by Madison County. And then there was our grant from Louis County. So we felt very fortunate to be able to receive one of the 4 of the state.
So this 3555, that's, we're getting
That's dead on.
6, 7, 8, 9 units. Is that right?
For 36, no, that's 2 units at the college, basically. That's the college equipment.
Motion.
So the way the grant works is that when we put in the grant, we said we want this telecommunications equipment. We had to spell out exactly why, not everything, you know. So we did so, but in order for us to qualify for the grant, we had to have someone who basically supplied us with a 15% match, in-kind cash match. And so the College of Central Florida, I approached them and said, listen, this could help you, help us, because now you're going to be able to teach dual enrollment classes to every kid in Lee County potentially in our secondary schools without even having the kid to travel to the college. And so they approached their foundation and they were able to attain the $36,000, which is the 15% threshold for the match. I probably thoroughly confused you.
Very much so.
So we're asking for approval for 243,000, or are we asking approval for 36,000?
We're asking for approval for both sides of this grant, Scope A and Scope B. Scope B, the way this thing works is we will invoice the college for the $36,000, and then the equipment will flow through us as physical agents. So the equipment, we will order it, and then we will give it to them. We will have to come back later. And it's a little complicated, we'll have to come back later. And since we are actually purchasing that equipment, we will have to sign over that inventory to the college. But that'll be later.
And just so for the scope A, the $243,698. I know you said units. What does that unit, is that like a teaching unit? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
What-
That's this
This
stuff.
is telecommunications, it's basically, it's a unit that has a big screen TV.
Right,
It has the computer programs, hard drives, everything that it takes to communicate with another unit that's in another location. And so it's two-way communication, and there's one in the back so that the teacher can see what the class is doing, but they're also teaching remotely.
right.
Has full sound capability, everything that you would need to do a distance learning class. So basically, this is technology.
It's kind of like a souped-up FaceTime.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see it now.
And does it, this one, I get the money part, there, 36,000, lets us spend our 243,000. I think the 83,000 was confusing as it's written.
Yes.
That's why I was,
So
did
that
not meet,
explanation we're good.
it did not fall within the realm of our RFP, so therefore it was, we had to renegotiate that.
Now, is this thing gonna run off of its own, like, internet, or is it in our internet, is that gonna cause some problems? Because some of us got weaker internet in our towns than others.
We have, believe me,
Not pointing their name.
one of the first people that I went to was Ron Fred at the time, to make sure, and since then, we've readdressed that with our current techs, and we have more than enough internet. In fact, they may tell you somewhere along the line, we actually are working on negotiating
Yes.
double the internet for the same price. So,
As long as we don't have to run it through
Well,
Brazil, so, right.
Well, I just didn't want some kid learning in Cedar Kid in the middle of class, lost connection. Or he's 4 bits behind everybody else, it
Right.
sounds great, but will it actually work? Yeah, buffering, you don't want that.
I've been
Feel good
assured
about it.
that it will work, but you know how that goes. I'm sure that this is top of the line technology for this purpose. This is the best you can get at this time.
I move approval of bid 19-05 as presented by staff. And thank you very, very much for your hard work on getting this.
That was a
So,
team effort.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Powell, second by Mr. Etheridge. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
I'm excited for our kids. I think it's an awesome thing.
And you think that he's the one to put focus hours on making sure everybody is great.
Thank you for writing that grant.
Can I ask a question about that? Does classroom size fall into that? I mean, so many people watch the TV at one time? I just wondered.
It's outside that room.
Okay.
You know, our purpose.
Well, no, I mean, in brick and mortar, it makes a huge difference. When
We obviously want to use it for dual enrollment. That was one of our primary, and also STEM classes was another focus. We got extra points for concentrating on that. Things like foreign language and Cedar Key is on the table as soon as we can get it rolling. Things like that where we have some tough teaching positions to fill. We have science openings right now in the district, right? So those kind of hard to fill teaching positions will be front and center as far as that equipment goes.
One more question on it. Do you foresee having to have a teacher monitor the class? Like someone popping in? I know it's,
There has to be an adult.
okay, I didn't know how that worked. It's interactive and live.
Well, if you know, there's gonna be a teacher record, and so they may be teaching, let's say in Williston. Let's say, we have an excellent Spanish teacher in Williston, and she's teaching those kids in Cedar Key. There doesn't need to be a teacher per se in Cedar Key, but there needs to be somebody there to supervise the students, but it could be an aide, it could be a teacher's aide, or some, a secretary or somebody, could be supervising this.
I'm
It doesn't
gonna,
have to be a Spanish teacher, obviously.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm gonna get asked about this. This is not my question, but this is a question that I will be asked about. And you kind of referenced this. Williston's got this great Spanish teacher. Chief and the Spanish teacher stinks. I don't know if she does or not, he or she does or not. I'm just theoretically. My kid goes to Chiefland. Can I get signed up for that Williston class? Because I want the best possible teacher.
I think, if there's room,
That's it. I'm gonna be asked that question, so.
I think if there was,
College.
if it worked out within the schedule, I mean, I think that, you have some classes that are huge, right?
Yeah.
And you may need to try to equalize some of that to a certain extent. I don't know.
That's a bridge to cross. Not my question I'm gonna be asked.
And I look forward to hearing an update once it is installed, and when you come back to us and let us know how everything's going.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Julia, thank you very much for being so ready.
Good evening. And I just want to comment as the food service director, what I heard is that kids were not leaving campus, which means we'll have more participation in the lunchroom. That's all I heard. Because we do lose a lot when they have to leave and go elsewhere. And I also, Mr. Etheridge, I just kind of make the point, when you talked about giving your Cowboys the iPad notebook, I gave it to mine 2 years ago, and they couldn't be in better hands than with Brandon, because he helped my ladies who have no clue on how to use it. They are all very, very good with it now. Just have to say that. I'm here tonight very excited because I went to the Farm to School conference. I wish I could remember everything and make it across to you tonight. I want to make it as brief as possible. This was the book we were given when we got there. And it gave a little biography, synopsis of each person that was speaking. So we had chefs there, we had farmers there. And it told about each one and where they were from within the state of Florida. These were not all people from the actual Department of Agriculture, like I said, they were local farmers throughout the state. So it was pretty cool to hear some of the things that they said, some of the ideas they came up with, which I'll share with you. One of the things with Farm to School that was most important is teaching the kids about what agriculture is about and where the produce and food comes from that we serve in the lunchrooms. Showing them how it starts, whether it be with a seed. We were here a couple weeks ago with Ms. Beecham, and she was talking about how excited the kids were to see a seed be put in the ground and what comes out of it. We're talking about the seed, how the students will take care of it, what they do with it once it's taken care of, how they prepare it, and then going on to how to eat it, and even going as far as the conference talked about how to recycle it and how to share it. So if they don't eat it, and we talked about that in one of my presentations about the share tables. So that's something else that actually starts from the ground all the way to the share table to make sure that it gets out. And of course, recycling it would become composting. So making sure that that little seed goes and does everything that it's supposed to do. I know that doesn't have a lot to do with cow, because it doesn't start with a little seed in the ground, but yes. But cows, okay, now you're nervous. Okay. So it doesn't always have to do with produce also. So farm to school is the farm that we think of as the produce, growing a tree. But it is also about the chickens, not only the chicken meat, but then you have the eggs and where they go and what we do. It also has to do with milk. And we actually, right now, when we say local produce, local for us is the state of Florida. So if we want to get closer to our home, Levy County, and their better vicinity, so we can get fresher vegetables faster, more fruits faster. So we also, right now, use milk from a dairy farm right here outside Citrus County. We also use juice that they process in Tampa, but I forgot the name of the county. I'll think of it. Pardon? Yes. And then we also get milk products from Perry, from the Bassett Dairy in Perry. So we are getting local that way. There is fresh beef. The only fresh beef that we have access to is from Miami at this time. And that does come in. You got to get the price right. The price has to be right.
That's the name of it.
And beef is very hard to get right. So.
No, it's one order away.
It's hard for us to get, I will tell you that, it really is.
It's cheaper too.
So one of the initiatives that they wanted us to start is to start small. A lot of the schools that were there represented, they had people that have done a lot. I'm going to push Alachua County. Ms. Kelly Green. She has come in and she has done phenomenal things in Alachua County. So they have their own farm to school consultant. We're not there yet. I'm not that consultant. So they have their own consultant, which they got through a grant through the Department of Agriculture. So that is a possibility. When we looked into the grant a couple of years ago, it's that old adage that we have to have money to make money or we get what you want. So we didn't have enough in the fund balance at the time. This is when I first started. So we are now at that point. So now we just need to move into the interest and getting teachers and administrators and people on board to say that this is what they want to do, because they want to commit. If they're going to give us grant money, they want to commit. So we're making progress. There's not a lot at the schools right now that I'm aware of. I just did a survey for the USDA across the nation. And I put it out there as far as to find out what the schools were doing, and I didn't get too much feedback. I do have one person here, Miss Melody, who is implementing the harvest of the month in her class. And I did put that in the survey, thank you. So the teachers at the beginning of the year, I put that out for the Florida Department of Agriculture. And that's the form that you have when I just passed out the campaign. It shows the product of the month. Right now you have corn, which is the month of May. And it just kind of gives you an idea of what the little activities are for K through 5. And then there's other ones that go up, so for the grade groups. So that is one of the things that we want to implement more of, if we can get that into the school. So that just kind of informs them and gets the kids with interaction, understanding, and then speaking or communication between the cafeteria and what they're learning in the classroom. So the teacher's teaching them about corn, we're making sure in illustrating, we're serving corn and bringing that to life. And then what's even greater is we go to one more step, is if we have schools grow corn. So just sticking really simple to actually grow a crop that they can share and we can sample with them. That was the main point, like I said, just being it very simple on what kids can do, getting the kids out there to create a garden at the school. There's several that do have gardens, but I've seen more of them at the high school on the FFA side, which is awesome too, because they can actually grow. So it's not something they want to produce and say they want to give us corn for the whole school. If they can just give us a small crop that we can actually teach the kids how it's eaten, how it's grown, and how the process of it. So we don't need a field. Now in Georgia, there's one that they've created over time. They all started just very simple, what we're doing right now, hydroponics field, and then they also have a regular field, and they supply all fruits and vegetables to their schools. So it's pretty neat. It's like a process. We're not there yet. It'd be great to put some of our FFA in there. That was the overall, like I said, just getting more kids involved, more students, more people, more administrators, and getting it at the school level and bringing it to work. As far as the cafeterias, we've been serving fresh fruit and vegetables from Florida. We actually cannot take products that are from overseas. We have to turn them away. The Florida Department of Agriculture, they will tell us we're not allowed to accept it. So it's local products. We put out salad bars. We have had a chef, Chef Paula, who is with the state agriculture department. She's come into some of our schools and actually taught the skills. Our staff has been trained by the chef. We've had nice little classes, and she's come in and showed us how to use kale, got watermelons or cantaloupes. We did squash. So she's come in. So on the cafeteria part, we've been going through the process. We just need to get more of the classroom cafeteria stuff. Any questions?
Julie, that'll change some of the prepackaged stuff, ideas. You're talking about fresh fruits and vegetables, you're talking about going back to cook.
Sure.
Well, I'm saying.
No, it wouldn't, it's, yes. So the thing is if we can get more local products that can get to us quicker, then yes, we wouldn't have to have them packaged. If we can get that commitment of a local farmer to give us carrots, because that's the vegetable we use the most, and we buy them in baby carrots here. But if we can get a commitment where they can go from, and that's why it's called farm to table, they can go farm and come with us within a day. We know that they don't need those chemicals that keep them we keep them fresh, keep that color. We get them quicker.
So the school lunch programs are bid on contracts and they're done in segments all across state Florida.
Yes.
Right, so seasonally and non-seasonally, those crops are available through those school lunch program bids, right?
Correct.
Because our Florida beef is going in the school lunch program now. We have that all the way until July of next year in segments in so many towns. So there's tons and tons and tons of fresh fruits and vegetables in the state of Florida every single day. That would be, if it's within the border of Florida, considered local.
Correct. That's the way it
Then
is.
the supply should be available through those purchasing agreements, right?
That is correct. So it's us getting out there and understanding, it's us getting to them and finding out which ones can service us. We still have to go through a bid process. So right now, because we are with the Power Buying Group, a lot of our stuff is coming from them, but a lot of others are going outside that, and we are completely able to do that. It's just finding the right farmer to meet with us.
I was just trying to understand what the shot does. I just wondered if it's an apartment issue, because those school lunch programs, that's a federally bid, not state bid, right?
No, it's bid within the county. We can bid it within the county, but we use the Power Buying Group, which encompasses a lot of.
It's done under USDA, not the Florida Department of Agriculture. Yeah.
There are things that we bid, for example, you come in here and you look at dairy bids. You have those. Yeah. But what she's saying, the Power Buy Group is like, for example, we have a state bid. So it's a contract that this group has that we can buy off of, that's what that is.
Correct.
Like the sheriff's department bid for vehicles.
So we bid we bid our own milk. Our fruits and vegetables actually we don't bid because we get them from the Department of Defense. So at this time, and then what they do is they work for us because they're the USDA, but they work for us to get products that are local. So, and then some of them are not. Some of them do come from California, and that goes a lot sometimes because of weather. If our weather is bad here, we've got to get them from somewhere else. But our produce right now comes from the Department of Defense.
See, I'm trying to understand it. I know we're doing probably all we can. There's always, we hear this on the other side, from the agriculture side, that we're doing everything we can to get local product into your school, and I just wonder if there's really a streamline to make it happen. Because I hear about it, I know there's fruit safety protocols and all the other stuff. You really can't take your local farmer and get squash delivered to the back door of the cafeteria and serve it, can you?
No, and that is hard, no, because you have to, you are correct, because you have to meet.
Distribution channels.
Yes, so that is the one thing, even if the students have garden, they actually do have to go through it's called, I have it. There's a process they have to go through. Yes, they have to be certified. So just like everything with the government, they want to know what you planted, the soil content, the water, where the water came from. So there is a certification that he's talking about that we have to look at, even if it is but they have, because they want more of it in Florida and they want more of the involvement, it's not as extensive if you had probably like you, Mr. Etheridge, that has this huge farm, or I don't think it's.
We're pretty local. We're small.
As far as how you have to go with certification.
Yeah, I mean, we're stamp approved fresh from Florida product,
Okay,
which that's what I'm saying, that should be good enough to go into our school lunch program, if it's stamped fresh from Florida, which is a local Florida grown product. It has standards behind
and
it.
that's good.
But I just wonder, but I don't think it actually happens that way. That's the reason I was wondering. It's not our side, it's probably the other side. I've taken up enough time this week. Thank you.
I would happen to agree because we get product in, this was one of my first questions when I started, we get product in, say like oranges. And we have signs all over our school that say fresh from Florida. We were once the orange capital of the world. And we get the boxes and they say fresh from California. I'm like, but that's what we get from the Department of Defense. Because the government's gonna watch the almighty dollar. So it might be cheaper to get the oranges from California than it is from Florida.
We
They have an excess of oranges.
We don't have fresh fruit cut Florida oranges anymore. It's all juice, the rest of them go to California. Citrus Industries did.
But it is, when we look at DOD, they actually have the origin of, we have to have the origin of the fruit or the vegetable that we get, and there's very little, which is why they're asking basically us to go out into the community and find out what is around us. Because we're searching.
You find it, and then they have an avenue that you can get it into, right? That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
But then they're just gonna fight you though still because they have to be certified. And then what about labor to process and cut the vegetables and fruit?
That is also a concern.
H2A approved.
And that's why, that's where it comes in with the training, so the Department of Agriculture has that chef. They actually have 3 now, but they go around sending to the schools to train the staff to do that, because unfortunately, that's not something that's common anymore because of the wage and the lack of hours available, as we don't have that kind of staff.
So actually, how much fresh fruit and vegetables do you prepare in schools?
Right now, basically, oranges, we cut. That's it. So the apples
They
come,
prepare.
Yeah.
the apples come pre-cut, and then we sell, we do a lot of whole, we stick with a whole in the high schools. We have whole oranges, whole apples, whole pears, whole bananas, there's one other thing. And then we serve grapes, strawberries, but those are not cut. So we are serving fresh. But for the little ones in the elementary, as far as cut, they come in pre-cut.
And vegetables?
Vegetables, we do cut. So I will take that back on the pre-cut. Because vegetables, we have salad bars. We have salads that we serve daily to the students. tomatoes are cut, cucumbers are cut, pepper, anything vegetable-wise there is cut. And then as far as broccoli and corn, it comes frozen, not canned, so it's individual, it's that quick frozen and gets to it quickly.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in this program. I think it's great, and so, you know, any support we can give you to get that in the schools and the local, I think it's wonderful. It's gonna be a challenge, but, you know, so I'll challenge you to do it.
Okay. Thank you, I will. The picture I just sent you was, this is something I just learned about and I thought was so neat. I know it's been around forever, but that is called gleaning. So this was the most recent picture that they had. The Department of FDAX actually went out, in their department, the workers went out. But this was actually a school in Leon County, a group, and they went out and gleaned the satsumas. It's a new word for me too. But anyway, we actually just got, what is it?
Satsumas.
Satsumas, thank you. So we actually just got, Friday afternoon, we got a notice from the FDAX department asking if we wanted to purchase any of these. So we usually, Gilchrist County and us get produce from the same company on the same day and everything, so we always talk. So we both notified and called the grower, the farmer, and unfortunately, this is part of it, he does have an excess of these, and we wanted to get some here, but he only delivers to one location, and he's in,
Yes.
yes, I want to say Madison,
West.
must be in Gas, but he's in Madison.
Quincy.
So, yes, so it was quite a ways, like 2.5 to 3 hours away. So I did contact the state, and the state told me to contact my grower, our distributor, which is in Tampa. So now you're talking about a 4.5 hour distance. But he said that he would bring it, for Gilchrist and me, he would bring it to one location, then we needed to go pick it up, and then we needed to get it to the schools. So I told him that our courier would not do that. So, it's not that I don't, that could become something to where now we're using a courier to deliver. And we've got to be careful because if it's not a refrigerated truck and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not gonna jump that step. So we just need to figure out another avenue.
It's distribution is the issue, and it always will be when you're talking about local, because you're talking about small quantities of different varieties. Until everybody gets at the table,
Correct.
it's not going to.
And that kind of happened last year because we have watermelon season come about. And it's a great time to get watermelons because those are local and very local to every school. You've got them outside, but how do we get them to the school without having to
Send
go to
them to
the...
Jacksonville through the distribution channel and then back to the school. I'm serious, it's the way it's done.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You would have to go to my distributor in Tampa to come back through here. And then even if they are local, just because they're local, we got to make sure that they're certified. I just can't give our kids any watermelon just because we can see it growing doesn't mean that it has the right fertilizer. So there's some challenges, but thank you for challenging me. I
All
like
watermelons
challenges.
have proper fertilizer.
Pardon?
All watermelons have proper fertilizer. Just for education.
Thank you. And the water?
Yes, ma'am, it all comes from down there. We have the best aquifer water in the world.
That's right.
Are there any questions?
Look forward to hearing some more about it. That's great. Thank you very, very much, and thank you for the information. Item H, our transportation update. Mr. Masters? Mr.
Contrary to what you may have heard, Mr. Coward and I are not competing on the beard. Although I've been diverting my focus and effort away from growing hair to make my beard grow faster, but.
Me too.
All right. Which brings me to a bit of wisdom that I'll share with you. Never buy your spouse a rolling pin as an early Christmas present. Sometimes you wind up with a lump on your head. So things are running along fairly smooth with transportation. And there are 3 things coming up quickly after the turn of the new year. A couple of those are federal issues, and Mr. Wayne will share those with you.
Good evening. Yeah, so there's some mandates coming from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and one of them is they created an alcohol and drug clearinghouse, and that goes in operation January 6th. It's a federal website where positive alcohol or drug tests will be reported, and it'll be reported by the medical review officers. And we will query our drivers once a year, or anytime we hire someone new. We would pull a query on their past. It'll have 5 years history. And now if we were to hire someone, say from Dixie County, I would send them a fax and say, hey, have they ever had a positive? And then they have to get approval by the driver to send us that information. And sometimes they'll fax us back, and, yes or no. So that'll all be federal. Mr. Masters and Mrs. Wade will have access to the website as well. And we've already created a school district login. And all the drivers have to create a login. We've been working on that as they come in during inspection. That's supposed to be done by January 6th. And also, the FMCSA will have a fee for us to pay when we do a query. But it's about $1 per driver. So that information, positives, that will follow a driver anywhere in the nation. They got a positive here, and deciding to start a new career in Kentucky, that information will be there. One of the controversial things right now with the drug testing is the CBD oil, and we've given our drivers a lot of training about it. For a commercial driver, it's a Schedule I drug. And it's possible to get a positive result because it's non-regulated. And you'll see on all the corners and gas stations, all these signs that they sell it and it's clean and you couldn't get a positive. They can claim that it's not regulated. They can claim that it'll heal your joint pain. But whatever they want to claim, they can claim. But for a commercial driver, that can't be used. And actually Broward County they had 4 or 5 drivers that were using it, claiming they were getting some kind of relief. They've all lost their jobs with Broward County, and Dixie County actually has had a positive having to do with CBD oil. It's kind of funny to me, but admission of CBD oil use is a disqualification. So a driver has to be careful if they're going for a DOT physical or to see a doctor, and they admit that they're using it. That actually disqualifies them from holding a CDL license. And over the last 2 years, there is a 33% increase in marijuana positive drug results. And the FMCSA, they control the amount of tests we give. And 3 or 4 years ago, we were testing 50% of our fleet for a drug test and 10% of our fleet for alcohol on an annual basis. And we've been dropped to just 25% of the fleet. And I think that'll go up with the way these marijuana positives are going up. And another change is with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is entry-level driver training requirements. And this is supposed to be implemented February 7th next year. And we have to become a certified training facility. And we have to self-certify on their website. By the way, we're the only CDL testing facility in Levy County. And we currently test, besides making bus drivers, we test for City of Williston, Forestry, a few other entities. And as long as we only test county and city entities, we can avoid holding a $500,000 bond. So that's why we're not testing, give people out licenses. So we will have to be certified as a training facility. And there's going to be a minimum training for new drivers, and a lot of this we're already doing. For instance, the state requires that a new bus driver get 8 hours behind the wheel training. We're doing 15. There's going to be a requirement for nighttime driving in training. We're already doing that. And some of these things we've already started. And then there's going to be, we have to create a knowledge test to give these drivers, and it's not standardized. And if the test doesn't hold validity, there could be legal ramifications. And I bring that up because the Department of Education is not offering any guidance in this. So we have all these school districts that are not sure what needs to be on this test, but we're being told it better hold some validity. I found that kind of interesting.
That's state or federal?
That's federal. So that's some of the new things that are affecting us through Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
What's our process for, like, how do you select, or how often do our drivers get picked for drug testing or alcohol testing?
Okay, so I send a list of everyone that should be considered for random test to here via email, and then they send me a random list. And right now it's 25% of our fleet recorder, and then 10% alcohol. To be random, if a driver's picked this quarter, the name goes back in the hat for the next quarter. So sometimes we have a driver who may not be tested in a little while, and another driver may be tested every single time. That's just the random part of that.
Quarterly, is that?
I guess. Any other question?
I'm scratching fingers.
All right, well, we're moving to be ready for all of this.
Thank you very much for the update.
So just to throw out a few facts, we have 50 routes currently that run every day. And several of those are ESC, so there's 50 drivers, but several of those routes also have an aide on the bus with them as well. Just as an additional heads up, at Williston, we will be adding an additional ESC bus, most likely about the first of the year. 2 ESC routes we have there are stretched out past the capacity, so expect that. We're struggling a little bit on getting drivers, and I think a lot of that is the result of there are so many jobs out there that there's not so much competition in that people who want to work are able to find a job. So we're advertising and we're trying to recruit. But one thing that works against us a bit is our salaries. So I'll just throw that out. Maybe at some point you'll see a request to bump the pay up slightly. In addition to those 50 routes, on an average day, let's say today is average, we have 7 trips during the day, in addition to the routes. And only 2 of those trips fell outside of route time, meaning that we couldn't use route drivers on 5 of those 7 trips. So to show you the point we're stretched at, Joe and I both drove today to make sure that everything was covered. So far we're covering everything in all the trips, but it's really got us maxed out. Any other questions? Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, item I, Mr. Lott.
Well, we're gonna, this is just informational. Mr. Starks here, as you know, Mr. Starks is administrative assistant for Levy Virgil, And that's one of the areas that we plan on expanding. And, you're going to talk about maybe virtual first, or you're going to talk about?
Talk about the blended learning.
Okay, blended learning. I'm going to share some information with you in regard to completions and the excellent progress that the blended learning teachers are seeing in that realm. Then we'll transition into driver's education and some new ways of doing business in regard to driver's education that I think is going to benefit both the district and our students.
Good evening. I just wanted to share a little bit about how we're using some of our online programs in the district and some of the successes I wanted to share with you, and then I'll, like Mr. Law said, talk about some expansion opportunities for our students as well. So the primary online platform that I work with in the district is Edgenuity, and this is just a few of the ways that we're using Edgenuity and leveraging that platform in our district. The Levy Blended Learning Program is the primary curriculum in all of our focus centers in LLA. And then there are classroom teachers across the district that are using it in their classrooms to supplement their teaching, which allows them to have a consistent and increased rigor in the classroom and allows them some flexibility with how their students are engaged. I'm going to focus primarily on the Levy Blended Learning Program. So we use, in the Levy Blended Learning, we have students that are taking courses for credit recovery, which, as you probably know, is students who have taken a course and were not successful and did not earn credit for it the first time. They get another shot at it. Hopefully they are successful that time. So we have some, and occasionally we have students who are just looking to improve upon a grade that they need for their GPA to improve as well. We also have students that are taking courses with us for the first time, which is a benefit that allows students the flexibility to take a course online with the teacher in the classroom. It also sometimes helps with scheduling and gives students the opportunity to take a course that may not be available to them during a particular time of day. One of the best examples I have of that recently is a student that we have at Cedar Key right now who wanted badly to be a part of the SALT program, didn't fit his schedule, so he's taking English with us. And he's working through his English course so he can be a part of that program. So we offer courses through the Blended Learning Labs in all 4 of our core subject areas, and we have 4 teachers in the classroom every day. We do rotate them. So at each home school, our teachers are housed at a school. Currently, we have a math teacher housed at Williston. Cedar Key has our science teacher, social studies at Chiefland, and our language arts teacher is at Bronson. Each day, we move from school to school so that each student has an opportunity to have face-to-face contact with their teacher each week. And then for administrative purposes and to help things out, we all come back home on Friday and help get paperwork done and help scheduling and work with our homeschool administration and guidance office. So we communicate greatly with those aspects of the school, making sure that students have the correct courses, make sure we know what the plan is for them going on. So there's a lot of communication that takes place. And I'm proud to say we have a really strong team of 4 teachers that are doing a great job of meeting the kids' needs in that classroom. So I want to share some successes from last year. This was our numbers from each school and total for the district. And I'm very proud of these numbers, honestly, because I was a part of this as the math teacher, and so I was happy to see us come out at the end of the year with some great numbers. We served a total of 407 students, individual students last year in each of the 4 schools. And those 407 students took a total of 846 enrollments. That's a half-credit course that a student attempted. Of those 846, 686 of them were completed successfully, meaning they earned their credit. So that's 686 half-credit courses that were earned for students who otherwise might not have seen them. So I felt like that was cause for celebration at the end of last year, and I was really, we definitely celebrated that as a team, and I'm proud to share that with you. We are growing. Serving and being able to be in this capacity as administrative assistant, adding this teacher. has helped us to grow a little bit this year, and we are seeing great success this year as well. So this is our current numbers this year. And as of today, these numbers came out at about 12:30 this afternoon. We have seen a total of 256 students in the lab, in our blended learning labs. We have probably this year more students taking multiple enrollments, more than one course. Some students are, when we have a student come in and, especially from outside the district, it's sometimes difficult to place them in a course in the middle of the semester. That's where we come in, because we can start them off whereas we couldn't start them in a regular classroom at the middle of the semester. So we're able to help them earn that credit as well if they've come into us from another school district without credits. So 521 total enrollments in the district in our 4 schools right now, and of those, 194 have already completed at this point in the semester. We do see a lot of students do complete more than one half-credit course within the scope of one semester, so that gets them ahead. That helps them, or gets them caught up quicker, whichever the case may be. So as of right now, we have 194 half credits that have been earned for students, and we're not quite to the end of the semester. So I'm really excited to see, and we're kind of in crunch time, and a lot of students are finishing up courses right now. So my guess would be since 12:30, that number has changed even as of today. So we're seeing great growth there. I'm proud to see that. One of the other things that we're working at growing is the use of our virtual programs. These are the virtual programs that are available to students in our district right now. We do have access through the umbrella of Levy Virtual School. We have access to Edgenuity as a virtual provider. We have access to My District Virtual School, which uses the Florida Virtual School curriculum. Florida Virtual School is still an option, obviously, to every student. And then for K-5 students, we have option through NEFAC to use the K-12 curriculum as well. So those are the options that we have under the umbrella of Levy Virtual School. And so what we're working on now is trying to grow the entity of Levy Virtual School and provide more courses directly to students through that entity. So that's where this next program comes in that Mr. Lott's going to talk to you about. And I do have a video if you want to show it, and now we can. Okay. So we're excited to be able to offer driver education to our students in the district through a district course, through a district teacher, through Levy Virtual School. So these are the things that are addressed in the class itself. It is the content, the curriculum is identical to what you would see at any other virtual provider offering this course. We do have a little bit of a promotional video that was provided to us, so I wanted to share that with you, if I can.
Fundamentals of Driver's Education. The Fundamentals of Driver's Education online course is a multifaceted approach to standard classroom learning with a 21st century virtual appeal that encompasses, facilitates, and meets the needs of every learner. This course crosses traditional methods with robust virtual techniques, including 3D animation, mastery learning concepts, interactive scenarios, online review activities, and interview discussions, making it an invaluable tool for preparing drivers for the road ahead. Course participants will learn state-specific standards and objectives, including a basic knowledge of the highway transportation system, its purpose, major elements, effectiveness, and the role played by man in the system. Course participants will also learn the necessity for identifying potential hazards in traffic, making predictions about what will happen in relation to each danger, making wise decisions for action based on minimum risk, and demonstrating appropriate extension of these decisions. The effect of alcohol and other drugs on decision-making and driving tasks, the importance of vehicle maintenance for safety and efficient operation, and the need for actively supporting traffic law enforcement agencies and assisting in the improvement of highway safety programs. The course design will ask students to go through both modules and online activities. A module starts with a learning section full of important information and then provides a short quiz at the end. These quiz questions employ loop mastery technology to to ensure learning, meaning that if a question is answered incorrectly, it will loop back to where it was taught and reteach it again, repeating this process until full mastery is achieved. Here's a course secret. Do your absolute best the first time. Students will also be engaged in interactive, animated 3D scenarios to reinforce the concepts and standards taught within the module learning section. Through these scenarios, your guide to success will be the silver Safety First card. Following the scenarios, students will go through a brief review of the material learned in the module's learning section and scenarios before making the module test. This test will assess the module's specific standards and objectives. After every 2 modules, students will complete an online activity. Students will go online to review other important content. Students will take notes and answer questions specific to their review of the online content. After the last module and online activity, the student will take the final exam for the course. If you are a student participant in this course, you may be asking, what is really in it for me? When you successfully complete this course, you will have earned a half-credit elective from your school, completed the state of Florida required AD/APT/TLSAE training, this record being sent to the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, ensuring approval and preparedness to schedule and take the required written examination and road driving test. Good luck, students, in this very important course and the road ahead.
All right, so this is where we're going to try to expand some. In your folder, you have some data there. Basically, the data starts out with some figures from Florida Virtual School. Florida Virtual School is by far currently the #1 virtual provider for driver's education, not only in Levy County, but in the state. And so I provided you some data about how many of our kids we're averaging that are going through the Florida Virtual School version of this, right? And so our plan is to contract with Edgenuity. We already have one contract. This particular contract will be basically on a per student, so it's sort of an a la carte, if you will, version of some of their courseware. We have others like this. And so then we will use their teachers. We'll use our teacher. We have one teacher currently in Libby. He will be the teacher of record when we're using their courseware. Okay, and so right now we have one teacher in Chiefland, and that's Kyle Carney. So what we're trying to do is start to have him be teacher record, teach these kids across our district through this platform, and then have them be prepared to drive in the summer, which will expand our capability. Currently, what we do is Kyle teaches driver's ed at Chiefland and drives those kids at Chiefland in the summer. In Bronson and Williston, we have to contract out with All Florida Safety Institute. They provide those services for us in Bronson and Williston. And I'll provide a little background information for you on the next page to show you where those funds come from. Well, basically, there's a state fund that has been enacted. It's called the Dory Schlossberg Driver's Education Fund. Every county in the state, every moving violation, I think it's $5 for each one of those goes into this fund, and then is dumped back into the schools for driver's education. That's how we fund this. And so, but right now, we're having to pay an outside agency to provide that for some of our students. You know, we feel like eventually, we can get to the point where we're using our instructors. We can do it virtually, but then that gives our instructors more seat time with our kids during the summer, so they don't have to teach this because the kids have already learned this online, and I think they'll get a more complete course that way, a safer course, a better course, and I honestly feel more comfortable with our people. And so I've recruited a couple of new teachers, and they are going through the process of getting their driver's ed endorsement. It's quite expensive, especially if you do it in-state. It's about $10,000. The only provider in the state of Florida is Nova Southeast, which I don't know if you know anything about them, but they're very expensive. And so I did some research. I found them a provider out west in the Dakotas, North Dakota, and it's about $3,000. So we're gonna they're already signed up for these courses, hopefully they'll get through this semester. So the courses needed to get their endorsement, we'll get them online, and we'll start expanding this program to teach more of our kids ourselves. And then they'll also be driving the kids in Bronson, and who knows, it may be expanded to Cedar Key, depends how many kids we have, around the county. So that's our plan for driver's education moving forward.
I just want to have a conversation or how this came about. We've been talking about how to expand driver's ed for a while. Well, I went to a FADS conference, and there was a vendor there, I think it was Department of Motor Vehicles. Anyhow, they have a program, and they gave me a bunch of information on how much money we're losing through Florida Virtual School, because if they take it to Florida Virtual School, that's FTE, we're not getting. And so I brought it back to John, this information, and check out this product here and, run some of these numbers, is this true? And so that's what led to some of this conversation that you did. Because what we're trying to do is provide, number one, we want to provide our kids better experience. Driver's education is just good for everybody, and be able to not lose the money doing so.
Mr. Fox, so if Mr. Cornell teaches that, why is Chiefland have the lower number complete?
So that's in the virtual school in Denver.
So they're not enrolling in that?
That's Florida Virtual
Virtual school enrollment.
Oh, okay.
So, from that standpoint, he does such a great job that they'd rather have him than Florida Virtual School. And that, honestly, we did look at that, and we said, well, to us, if we had some more of these instructors that are local available, then perhaps that can make an impact there.
That'd be good. I know there's a waiting list, they all want to get in the class.
So our plan is to, start to teach these classes virtually during the school year, right? And so our plan is to start in January with Kyle being the teacher record and get some of these kids through. If we can get enough kids in Chiefland through, go ahead and start driving those kids in Chiefland and possibly free him up to drive in Bronson or Williston in the summer. And hopefully, we won't have to use the outside agency for 2 schools, at the very most maybe 1 school. And then by next year, we'll have 3 instructors and we'll be totally self-sufficient. Any other questions for me or Nick? Do you have any more for this? Okay.
It's exciting.
Thank you very much for that presentation, it's great. Item J, Mr. Lottigan.
Yes. So, as you know, we have advertised new board policies. We've already got prior permission. We did have one change, and I guess I'll start with that one on our medical marijuana policy 5.151. As Dr. Hall and I were looking at this, she came in, she had some questions, and as we looked at it a little closer, we saw some things that needed to be changed. And it's under it's under 5.15 medical marijuana proposal, but it's under responsibilities of principals and administrators. You'll see some language there and one number that is in blue. And so that is the most recent change since we last met. And these are not numbered, these pages are not numbered, but it's under responsibilities of principals and administrators in the medical marijuana policy. Next to the last. So you'll see, this was an oversight on our part. On number 2 there, it says that provide the parent guardian with a copy of the policy, and they had a different number. Well, our number is going to be 5.15. I don't know if I said that. 5.151 is going to be our medical marijuana policy. So we made that change, put the right number in, and they had ESSS which is the same thing as ESC and Student Services. We just don't use that nomenclature to describe that, so we put in what we use, which is ESC and Student Services, and how they relate to this whole policy and how administrators can consult them as needed in regard to probably, IEP demands and so forth. Other than that, we did have a couple of things there at the end too that we crossed out on number 3. You can see that. And the reason is because they reference school form and we don't use that particular program. I think this program, this policy, this draft originally came from another school district. And so that language was pertinent to their school district and not ours. So I had to remove that language.
Do we have any students?
Excuse me?
Do we have any students that we know of that are on medical marijuana?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
I have heard of one potential in Chiefland, but we're not there yet. We don't even have a policy. I think they may,
Yeah, but it's not an at-school thing.
yeah, they get dispensed at home. They don't have to have it here today. It's elementary. But right now, no. So if there's no question, any questions on that or any of the other policies that we've previously brought to you, there are no changes on any of those. And if there are no questions, then we ask for your approval of these new policies.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
A motion, and a second, and we'll make and that's for all the policies together. Any other discussion?
I would just like to thank Mr. Locke. This just looks like numbers, there's a lot of work. I told my dad the other day, you must spend about 12, 14 hours a day reading.
I realize.
I appreciate it. It takes a lot of effort on everybody's part. Nothing falls through the cracks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes for our policies. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawton. Thank you for all the research you've done. Item K is hires, best and brightest.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent guests. This evening, we're requesting permission to advertise our best and brightest policy for Levy County. This past year, the Florida statute was amended relating to best and brightest, which is final year to request this policy. The legislature recognizes that second only to parents, teachers play the most critical role within schools in preparing our students to achieve a high level of academic performance. Therefore, it is the intent of the legislature to recruit, retain, and recognize our teachers who meet the needs of this state and have achieved success in our classroom. The amended version is broken into 4 categories: recruitment, retention, the principal award, and recognition. So we're here this evening to ask permission to advertise our policy.
Is that in addition to what we're going to have?
Yes, you do have it after the board policies. It's a separate issue, a separate.
I'm going to approve to advertise.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Are there any changes to the minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12th board meeting? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes for the minutes. Thank you very much. Any changes on our consent agenda? Okay, we've all had a chance to review that and look over it. Are there any comments on the consent agenda? Mr. Cowart?
I asked my one question that I had on, with Mr. Carey Wade, so I'm good, so.
Mr. Evans?
I don't see where it falls, but it's kind of waiting on the issue with Parish McCall repair. I guess it's in the consent agenda. It's on the addition, okay. If I read that, the repairs were not to exceed $30,000, that have been an estimate.
Yeah, that was the estimate. That was when the car drove into the front of the high school in September.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was our estimate, it's not gonna go over 30,000.
So insurance is gonna cover,
Her insurance company is going to cover it. They have told me they will cover that. We'll have to put it out and it will get reimbursed. They have coverage up to 50,000. She has USAA, which, so I feel very good that we'll get that taken care of.
it amazes me what $30,000 worth of damage looks like. Though.
Well, there's a lot of damage on the inside of the building, it's a lot of masonry work and things, and we put it off until now so that we didn't disrupt the school atmosphere.
That's all I have.
Are there any other questions, comments?
This may have already been answered previously, but as far as the school recognition dollars, when will those amounts be paid? When will the people be receiving?
When we have time to process them.
Okay.
The three that you see in here are scheduled for the December 20th. Williston Middle High, and we received their plan, so it'll be after the first of the year. Bronson High, we have not received theirs yet. Once we do, we'll work that into our rotation.
Okay. No problem. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'll have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Well, I have one.
Certainly.
So a while ago, we approved a 6-month contract with Duke Solutions. But in our consent agenda, I see a 1920 contract between School Board of Lee County Duke Solutions provided. So is that for the remainder of the year, a different contract, or is that the contract we approved a while ago?
There's two contracts, actually, what we approved. It was, one is they're giving us a couple months free and a reduced cost for the remainder of this school year, and then the contract for the following.
So in the consent agenda, we are doing for the following 6 months, July to December in the consent agenda. That $8,800 that I looked at the bottom of it.
$8,800 is the fee for the following year. Right. And there's always an opt-out clause.
I just want to make sure it's not the same contract, let's do it twice. that's all.
We listed the total annual cost, so we felt like you would have a fair representation of what it would cost were we to let it renew for the following year. It's
Totally
probably this-
clear, thank you for doing that, Ms.
I'm sorry.
No, it is good.
Oh, okay.
I'm being,
Okay.
thank you. Just clarification is all.
Yes,
Catherine West, who is battling an illness, we're losing a good teacher at WMHS. So just keep her in our prayers.
certainly will, thank you for bringing that up. Any other comments? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Edison?
First off, the negotiation team met last night and they agreed on an agreement. And so hopefully we'll be working together to put out all the information to the employees, and then it has to go out and be ratified and then approved by all.
The negotiations update should be out by in the morning. I have some corrections from Ms. Myers and from Ms. Lake that we discussed, and they'll be able to go in the morning.
Also, just had a privilege of going out and with Mr. Asbell recognizing our teacher of the year this year. This is Nicole Thornton, the guidance counselor at Boston High School, and also our EST of the year, which is Cynthia Bacon at Chief Elementary School, who's a food service worker, right? Nice to do that. Also, at there are times when stress when people shine. We did have a bus accident to respond to this week, and I can tell you that it's not just the transportation department, but we are truly blessed to live in Levy County. More so than people know. when people, like, we have off-duty emergency responders just stop and start helping teachers from Georgeville and Wilson Elementary School stop and just help guide and work with the kids and make sure that everybody's safe. They don't, everybody, nobody's hurt. And so that's just part of where we are and who we are. But kudos to the team, and it was really, all the administrators are out there, just a great effort, and we're blessed not to have anybody hurt, just some property damage. And other than that, Merry Christmas.
I'll start with,
Obviously, last week we had FSBA and FADS conference, so always good when we can go. We expect a lot of our employees to have professional development, so we should hold ourselves to the same standard. So just appreciate everybody being down there and taking the opportunity to learn new things, to see how things are done in other districts, to see where there's pockets of success and things that we can improve on, or things that we can glean and bring back here into the district. One of the things that I thought was really cool, and I hope that if they have this again, that we can maybe sneak ourselves through there. They had a CTE kind of walk of fame, I think is what they called it. So I mean, but anyways, it was Sumter County had South Sumter, and they had several of their FFA students there, kind of talking about what they do and what not only their SAE projects, but also the other side of what they do. Kind of their different industry certifications that they go through. So it was really neat. And then there was a welding program out of Fort Myers. There was a police academy out of Clewiston. And then Putnam County had, I want to say, it was like a manufacturing type thing. So kind of I think an apprentice program that they have, I think with GP over like. So I thought that was just a really cool thing. And then always it's just good to be with you all, so and kind of fellowship and get away down there to just as we work hard here, but then also the ability just to get together with each other down there. And today, Mr. Edison and I were able to get out to Tallahassee, and we met with Representative the chair on the House Appropriations side, Representative Cummings, and just kind of shared with him about the Chiefland Middle High School project, to kind of keep it on his focus. He obviously, along with Senator Bradley on the Senate side, are the two chairs for the approach side, and just making sure that they understand how important that school is and how important the special facilities program is for small districts. And, so it was nice to be able to have some time with him, so it was a very, very positive meeting, and we were able to get back here. And then, it's that time of year where people get together with families. We've had Thanksgiving. It's been since before Thanksgiving before we met, and now it'll be after Christmas when we come back. There's a lot of people that create the success for our students, and just very, very thankful and humbled by all the hard work that goes in, that you don't see all the things like this. So Mr. Lott, Mr. Stockman, Mr. Eastman, so Ms. Kaylee, so Ms. Marla, different things like that go into creating the success not only for our students, but for our staff. So appreciate them, and Merry Christmas. Yes, sir. Oh, I did that, so I did forget. I was writing down my stuff, so. As it is that time, we're awfully blessed with people that have giving hearts, and people that have been fortunate that are great Bronson graduates. Mr. Charlie Kennedy with Gainesville Roofing put on the gym roof in Cedar Key. And while he was down there, I showed him our little Cedar Key school PTO shed and said, I was wondering if you could maybe take a look at this, and if you maybe had some extra shingles from a job or somewhere else that you could bring down there. So he was kind enough to come down and fix the roof on our PTO shed. And it's that kind of kindness and giving is the reason why we're successful in the district. So very, very appreciative of that. They are very, very much so.
thank
I
you.
never had to.
Thank you.
And we bought several cakes within the last, so the Cedar Key junior class cake and pie auction was very, very successful. The Williston High School cake auction was extremely successful, so I was worried because I was bidding against Mr. Etheridge's parents, so they were, about the time that I would think that we were going to get something done, so they quickly chime in there and they, but once again, it's just all kind of people like that make the day as successful, make our school successful. So, and also the Chief Institute of Government, so Mr. Edison represented us there.
Okay, awesome. We both are too.
Thank you, Mr. Asmus.
Sometimes the best part of being on those auctions is get out, raise it up. That's just as important.
Very, very much so.
Anyway, I was unable to be at the last meeting. Give you some help with things. And I had a ton of things to tell you about. They've all taken place now. We did have the cake auction. Bronson FFA I was selling the Christmas trees. We now have like 4 left. If anybody's still needing a great Christmas tree, I know people you can talk to, they have a few left. Those were the big things. And like Mr. Coward said, every year before we go to the school board conference, I always sit around, I've made no bones about this in the past few years. I hate going. I absolutely hate. I'm busy at work. I have so many reasons why I should go. And every year when I go, I'm so glad I went because I absolutely enjoy the people I serve on this board with. I get along with all of them. I think we give each other a hard time, but I think we're all good friends here and we all have a single purpose, and that is to improve the school system in Lincoln County. And the other reason why I like going is because you talk to some of those other school districts and you go, wow, I'm glad I work with folks I work with. And I must also, while you're on that though, must compliment our outhouse attorney down here. He did a great job filling in the ethics classes that I had to take. Great job there.
He had to deal with some heckling, so.
Yeah, and he had a woman that was all interested in it.
Let me see if I have that picture. There was a nice apron, I think.
Yeah, it had an apron on. What was that all about, Dave?
That was wrong. That was not pre-planned.
And then I'm going to end with this. When I was a kid, about 16 years old at Bronson High School, I walked into a chemistry class. There was this massive man standing there. If a grizzly bear could have a human baby, this is what this man looked like. He was covered with this big bushy beard, and he was just massive. He sat us down in class, he introduced himself, and he said, let me show you something. And a bunch of kids, we don't know anything about this. He has a thing called a bell jar. And folks that are educated know what this is. I had no idea what that was. Covering this jar of water. And he proceeds to hit a button, and it starts to bubble like it's boiling. This massive man rips that off and sticks his hand in this boiling water. And we are all shocked. We sat back, and he introduced us to chemistry by shocking us. That afternoon, I was on the weightlifting team. He introduced me to what it really means to be strong, because every weight Bronson had, he had on that bar. And he was bench pressing like it was nothing. He was a fun-loving guy that cared about every student he came across. And I only had him for chemistry. He made a huge impression on me. The man's name was Dick Whitman. Mr. Whitman died recently. And I'm amazed at how many friends and how many folks that I went to school with, he went to Cedar Key, have talked about all the great things and how 30 years later we all remember this big hairy guy that was such a great teacher. To me, that really gets to what it is. We have some teachers here. Teachers make an impact in their life that lasts forever. And on the morning I heard about Mr. Whitman dying, I had him for 1 year. And I was sad. He was such a great guy. He's no longer around. And I just wanted to have that on record, that we lost a valuable person who came through our school system. And he was appreciated by a lot of people. That's all I have.
Well, wrapping up the semester, I know everyone in here, professionally and personally, are trying to cram everything in the next 2 weeks, and Yankeetown is definitely doing that. They either keep an eye out, well, there's the outcome of that yet. But exams next week, we're having a Christmas program next Thursday, spelling bee next Tuesday, Christmas dinner next Wednesday, so very busy down in Yankeetown. Breezy, I wanted to ask you one quick question about fencing, not to put you on the spot. I was listening to your work order presentation and 1,500, what do you call them, orders, and, you know, year to date. I just didn't know where you were on the Yankeetown
On the security fencing,
security fencing.
they were supposed to finish Bronson, middle high school this coming week at the aluminum. I was told they would have it in their hands today, I was told yesterday. So they got to do the aluminum fencing at Bronson Middle High School, and then they'll be moving to Yankeetown. And I don't know if it'll be
New Year.
complete before the new year because of the holidays and the schedule, but that's where we're at with it. They're ready to go there as soon as they finish Bronson.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Everett.
I don't think I have a lot. You know, sometimes we have to get out of our box. And school board, I don't go anywhere anymore, just like Williston, Bronson, kind of stay on a small box. But Tampa's a big box for me now. And, you know, Mr. Coward stood on the back wall with me, and I listened to a man speak the other day that I had judged at a very quick meeting one day at the Governor's Roundtable. And it was a reassurance that something we need to look inside the book before we just look at the governor and judge. A person that had made comment to be very arrogant and proud. And then I listened to a story about him scrubbing boat decks to get his way to America in New York, working job to job, and then you go, you know what? Maybe he deserves to be a little arrogant and run the fourth largest school district in the country. Anyway, you can give people a chance to give their story before you judge what they are. And getting outside of our box sometimes, I don't like to drive to Tampa. I don't like being around all those people in Tampa. But it kind of re-energizes, gives you some ideas to get outside of our box. But also at the same time, Mr. Edison, you started on it. We travel and we go and we do, but there is no better place than my English teacher would maybe put a penny in a jar for saying it that way. There ain't no better place than Levy County. And it's because the people of Levy County is why. We got good people. We have our strengths and our weaknesses. But when it comes down to the end of it, we got good people. And with that, I do this every single year, wherever I'm at. Christmas isn't about presents, and it's not about turkeys and dressings and all that. It's just the reason for the season, the birth of Jesus Christ, and we can remember that part. I'll leave it there. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Mr. Delaney?
Nothing to add.
We do want to thank you for the ethics class, and that you were up there and represented and did a great job, and we were very, very proud that, you know, our attorney did that and presented and doing a great job. Yeah, did we pass?
Everybody stayed awake, and so that was mission accomplished.
All right, it was good.
You can't take it away from me.
Oh, John, did you bring your certificate to Angela? You didn't? Oh, we have to turn
I
it
gotta
in.
get the certificate handled?
Yes, we have to turn it in.
Oh, Lord, okay. I can take it when I get it back, I'm scared.
The conference was wonderful, and it was great to be with everybody, and I thought this conference was certainly more educational and interesting, and great classes, and really worthwhile, so it was terrific. Also, I wanted to ask about the camera at the Focus in Chiefland High School. It was installed, but is it working? The camera in the Focus room at Chiefland High School.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, because I think last time I asked, you said it was installed, but I got a report, maybe it's you know, maybe with our new system now and our plan and our, that we'll know all that and then it's all documented and we'll know.
Well, I can find out, but I really don't have that. I do
Yeah,
know
I was asked about that again, so I think there's a concern.
We'll find out.
Okay, and then also, I am with all our contracts and the things that, when they're coming up. Ms. Howard, I want to know, when is a contract coming up on the front line?
We have it for a full year, so it'll be at the end of the school year.
I thought it was January, we got it last year.
Well, actually, it wasn't installed, we didn't start implementing it, we started with the pilot program April 1st.
Okay, so what is the percentage used by Frontline that the subs are in the classroom, that Frontline is getting the subs?
Actually, I brought a report with me. We had, 79% in October, and we were at 87% for this month. We have quite a high rate of absenteeism.
That the front line, that they're logging on the front line and they're going on and getting it, and not the school, is that correct?
Right, logging in a frontline is filling those positions.
Okay, that's great, and I'm glad to hear that, that's just not the report that I received, so I'm glad to know that.
And also in January, we will be looking at adding the Paris onto the system. So I would love to know, if you can share with me at some point what you
Yeah.
heard, or because
Certainly.
we can pull those reports any day, any minute, so.
Good. Yeah, because this is not what I'm receiving, I want to make sure, we want it to work.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I think that's all I have too, and just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and thank you all. Nothing